A major announcement today out of Intel detailing that they're going to be dropping their block scale chip manufacturing. What does this actually mean for Bitcoin? Welcome back, everyone. I'm not trying to make a habit of the bad news. Yesterday we covered the $5 wrench attack, and today we are talking about Intel's block scale chip for Bitcoin mining. And apparently it seems that they're going to be halting operations. But let's take a little trip through memory lane first so that we understand what the progression of this was. Because we had already been reporting on Intel 2 years ago. And I remember being ultra bullish about this. So anyways, let's dive into this. We're going to go back to an article, March 23rd, 2021. Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger announces IDM 2.0 strategy for manufacturing innovation and product leadership. Great words, great words. Okay, so the highlights from this: announcing manufacturing expansion plans beginning with $20 billion investment to build 2 new fobs in Arizona. Intel 7 nanometer process development progressing well with tape in of 7 nanometer compute tile for Meteor Lake expected in the second quarter of 2021. Okay, so that has nothing to do with Bitcoin mining, but who knows, maybe one day it could, because as essentially as nanotechnology becomes easier and easier to produce and to create, right, we're able to make these much smaller circuits that are able to do more and more complex operations, which therefore means that we should be at some point be able to take like a real leap in technological advancements. Anyways, let's continue here. Announcing Intel Foundry Services with plans to become a major provider of foundry capacity in the US and Europe to serve customers globally. And they announced plans for a new research collaboration with IBM. This was back in 2021. Bitcoiners, I know, were excited with the thought of, hey, they're providing foundry services. They're looking into chip technology. They may join the race in Bitcoin mining. And indeed, April 4th, 2022, we were happy campers. Intel launches new block scale technology for energy efficient blockchain hashing. And I remember when that came out, I was like, look at that, Intel's joining the space. And I remember saying, how long before NVIDIA and AMD joined the space? Back in April 2022, they announced details for its new Intel block-scale ASIC. Building on years of Intel research and development, this application-specific integrated circuit ASIC will provide customers with energy-efficient hashing for proof-of-work consensus networks. Sounded great. Sounded awesome. We fast forward to today, where it doesn't look so good anymore. Now, of course, one may suggest that based on the timeline of the FTX implosion, the SEC hearings, the fact that there's heightened scrutiny over proof of work, one could argue that possibly Intel was given a chat, and was told, back off of this technology a little bit. Don't try to help it along. That's one perspective. Not saying that that's what happened. The other perspective, as they will detail, as I should say, will be detailed in the article, is that the price of Bitcoin, it just doesn't justify the investment. It just doesn't justify it. Anyways, all right, let's go through the article. Then we're gonna give our comments. Intel unceremoniously dumps its year-old block scale chips for Bitcoin mining. Today, Intel quietly discontinued the block-scale 1000 chips, and the company told Tom's Hardware that it has no immediate plans to introduce any upgrades or replacements. The company will continue to support companies that have already purchased block-scale chips, but it looks like the project is fading away barely a year after its original announcement. The block-scale project came from Intel's Custom Compute Group, a specialized team inside Intel's Accelerated Computing Systems and Graphics Group, AXG. Kind of sounds like I don't know why, it sounds like a clothing brand, but of course I'm just thinking of Armani Exchange. Anyways, announced by AXG manager Raja Koduri in February 2022. But by December, AXG had been split up and folded into Intel's existing client computing and data centers team. And Kaduri left the company at the end of March. Oh, that can't be good. Not even a year. And the guy who heads it's just gone. Intel introduced the block scale chips just as Bitcoin's value was cratering. The value of the currency slid from nearly $46,000 in April 2022 to less than $17,000 in December. And the less the currency is worth, the harder it is to justify the hardware investment and the power use necessary to run a mining operation. Intel told Tom's Hardware that it was discontinuing block scale chips partly to focus on its nascent foundry business and the IDF 2.0 strategy, which is what we mentioned right here. That strategy is the one that they started in 2021, and it is this $20 billion investment into the 2 fabrication centers in Arizona and pushing the nanotech research and development. So do we really do I really think that Intel is leaving because they're losing money? Are they actually losing money? I mean, the stuff that they cited there, they essentially cited that for people owning mining operations, they would have a hard time. But Intel itself didn't actually cite any losses. So I got to be honest. I think they I think somebody, sorry, a tap on the shoulder. I think they got a tap on the shoulder and someone said, listen, why don't you walk away from this garbage? Walk away from this mining thing. That's what I think, because we have seen an increased attack on proof of work. And look, whether we agree with Intel or not, okay, producing a chip that is able to use energy more efficiently, there's nothing wrong with producing a chip like that. But you see, that's a bad direction if you're trying to get people to stay away from proof of work mining. Because essentially, anybody who has access to cheap enough electricity and can afford a miner can all of a sudden attempt to mine their own Bitcoin, or they can join a pool. They can join a mining pool and steadily earn Bitcoin, fractions of a Bitcoin, from mining with that pool. Now, that doesn't help the current system, right? That doesn't help the current government. Like they don't want that stuff. Like that's garbage for them. So I am really of the, and again, we're all in an echo chamber and it's tinfoil hat, but I really think that, somebody tapped them on the shoulder and said, look, you got to stay away from the proof of work mining. And okay, so how does this negatively affect Bitcoin? Number one, I don't really think it actually negatively affects Bitcoin in the long term. An argument could be made that obviously we want more competition in ASIC chip production in order to help push ASIC chip research and development. So I think that there's that aspect to the argument that could be valid. But I also think that Intel walking away is going to allow a void, and that void is going to have to be filled. So I say this is kind of a nothing burger still. I don't really care, but we're definitely paying attention to it, right? Because Intel's a major player, and the fact that they just backed off after 1 year, they barely gave this thing a chance. And the reason why I explain this is because I worked in a company that had developed a whole new platform. They gave it a brand new name and everything, okay? And then they released it, just like Intel did. Millions of dollars invested, hundreds of millions of dollars. And they lost market share. So then they revamped it again. And they lost a little bit more market share, because it really wasn't, it was too complex of an offering. My point is that 8 years later, this company is still attempting to improve and create a good enough return on investment on this platform. So they're not giving up. Now, of course, there is an argument to be said, hey, look, you should know when to call it quits, right? Like you should know when to walk away. And granted, that company should probably have walked away, but they didn't. But this goes back to the point of Intel. 1 year? 1 year's not enough. I don't think that I don't think they really gave themselves a chance. But I also don't, like I said before, I don't think it was their decision. I think they were told to pump the brakes. Anyways, that's just my opinion. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. I will catch you all tomorrow.